Hey everyone, welcome to Sourcetable. In this video, I'm going to teach you some important Excel formulas that you should have in your toolbox and how to implement them in Sourcetable. So Excel formulas work in Sourcetable just like they would in Excel. Anytime you want to use a formula, you'll just start with the equal sign and then start typing out the name of whatever formula you want to use. You can either type the full name of the formula, or you can just type the first few letters of the formula name, and then click on the formula once you see it in the suggested list. So just like in Excel, you start every formula with open parentheses, and a dialog box will appear telling you which inputs are required. In Sourcetable, you also get a second dialog box that gives you the definition of the formula. So let's just go through some common Excel formulas that you should know how to use. Some of the most basic formulas that you should know are summary formulas like sum and average. And these are pretty simple to use. The only input you need is either the individual cells that you want included or the range of cells that you want included. Once you have your inputs, just hit enter to calculate the formulas. Other formulas that you might need to know are conditional formulas like if, sum if, average if, count if, etc. So the if formula says that if a condition is true, you get one output, and if the condition is false, you get a different output. So in this example, we're going to say that everyone who has a performance score of 3 or greater gets a promotion. So I'll start with equals if, and the first input I need for my if function is the logical test, or the condition. In this example, my condition is going to be that the performance score needs to be greater than or equal to 3. The next input is value if true. So if the condition is met, I want the output to be the word yes. And the last input is value if false. So if the condition is not met, or the performance score is not greater than or equal to 3, then I want the output to be no. And that's it. Now I'll just close my parentheses and hit enter. And I can click and drag all the way down to see who is going to get promoted. You can also use if in combination with your basic summary formulas. So like I mentioned before, there's a function called SUMIF that will calculate the sum of your values if a condition is true. So for example, I want to calculate the sum of the salaries of employees who have been with the company for more than 3 years. So I'll start by typing out SUMIF, and the first input I need here is the range, or the data that I want to test. In this case, I'm testing years at company, so I'm going to make sure that that column is selected. Next, we need the criteria, which we already said is greater than 3. And don't forget that your criteria needs to be in quotation marks. And last, we need the sum range, which is the data that we want to sum if it meets the criteria, which is going to be the salary column. Now just hit enter, and there's your conditional sum. The last two formulas that I want to show you are VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP. So both VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP can be used when you want to find the corresponding fields to a known data point. So for example, I created this little tool here where you can enter the employee ID and get the performance score of that employee. So I'll start with equals VLOOKUP and an open parentheses. Now the first input I need here is the lookup value, which is what I want to look up. I'm looking up the employee ID, which will be in cell A2, so I'll just click that cell. Next is the table array, or the table where your data is stored. So that's going to be in my data tab, and I'm just going to select my entire table here. Next is the column index, which is the number of the column where you want to look for the return value. I want to return the performance score, which is in column 9, so this input will be 9. The last input is technically optional. It's the range lookup, and this is where you can input true for an approximate match or false for an exact match. If you don't specify anything here, it will automatically be set to true, giving you an approximate match. I want an exact match, so I'll say false. Now that my VLOOKUP is complete, I can change the value in the employee ID cell to anything, and it will automatically look up the corresponding performance score. The main caveat to VLOOKUP is that the value that you're looking up in a table needs to be to the left of the value you want to return. So if instead I had these two columns switched and I had employee ID in column I and performance score in column A, I would not be able to look up performance score from employee ID. So I would need to rearrange this entire table to make sure that the employee ID is to the left of performance score. There is a newer and much simpler version of VLOOKUP called XLOOKUP. It's much more intuitive, there's fewer inputs, and it allows you to look for values to the left or the right of a column. XLOOKUP is not available in all versions of Excel, but it is available in Sourcetable, so let me show you how to use it. Using this same example here, I'm going to type equals XLOOKUP open parentheses, and the first input I need is the lookup value, or what I want to look up, which is employee ID. Next, I need the lookup array, which is the column where my lookup value is found. The employee ID is found in my data tab in column A, so I'll just select that entire column. And the last required input is the return array, or the column where your return value can be found. I'm looking for the performance score, which will be in my data tab in column I. And the rest of these inputs in brackets are optional, so we're not going to worry about them today. So I'll just hit enter, and there's my performance score. And just like with VLOOKUP, I can change the employee ID, and the performance score will automatically populate. These are just some of the most basic and most commonly used formulas, but there are tons of formulas that Sourcetable offers, so explore different formulas and find ways to get your work done quicker. Thanks for watching.